Welcome to the CAT Teaching Table podcast, where we dive into the art and science of teaching, learning, and technology. Hosted by the University at Buffalo's Office of Curriculum Assessment and Teaching Transformation, otherwise known as CAT, and supported by the Gentiles Excellence in Teaching Fund. This podcast is dedicated to highlighting the journeys toward educational excellence. I'm Maggie Grady, a learning designer here in CAT, and today we're tackling a topic that is close to home for many educators, avoiding teacher burnout. Joining us today is Dr. Aisha O'Mally, a professor at the School of Management who not only experienced burnout herself at the 5 or 6 year mark, I should say for her example, and talk about her teaching journey, but also successfully reinvented her teaching strategy by diving into the world of artificial intelligence, which we're all super fascinated by in today's world. So thank you, Dr. O'Mally, for joining us today and sharing your journey, your insights, your strategies that helped you avoid the burnout and reignite your passion for teaching.
I am so happy to be here. Maggie, I love you. I love what you guys are doing. So thank you for inviting me to participate in this pretty cool podcast.
Yeah. So as an educator and someone whose job is to help teachers, that's me, I wanted to understand more about what burnout really is. So what I learned was that burnout is more than just a feeling of being tired after a long week. Burnout is a state of emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion caused by prolonged stress, and it's especially prevalent in professions that involve high levels of interpersonal interaction, like teaching. So burnout can sneak up on you, turning something that you once loved into a source of dread. When we all have that, we know that it's time to reevaluate. So It's a serious issue that can affect your health, your teaching, and your overall well-being. So this is all the things that I learned, and a lot of it is like, yeah, that's kind of everyday life.
Right.
So can you share what it looked like for you and what led to it in your experiences?
So I teach our business communication courses, and I've been teaching them since 2017 while I was dissertating. I taught 6 sections, and then I was hired full-time, and I teach that, and I'm contracted to teach 4 of those classes, fall and spring. And so I was doing that for about a good 5 years. And then, with anything, you get a little bored. And you're like, I want something new. And so I started taking on new classes, right, which required new prep. And so by year 6, I had started taking on new courses on top of my 4 semesters, 4 sections per semester. So that was a lot. So I'd say last fall, which is me going into my 6th year, I was teaching 6 classes. But I was excited, right? Because I was teaching 2 new classes that I was passionate about, that I wanted to get, revel and dig into with my students. And so I took it on with gusto. And then by week 9, I was exhausted because while my CO2 classes can run pretty smoothly because I've taught that for 5 years, the new preps I was creating on the fly, and kind of adjusting on the fly as well. And so it required a lot of cognitive work, right? Creative work, and sitting in front of larger classrooms with more eyes on me, I felt like more expectation. And it just started feeling daunting. I was like, the week would be so long for me. And so on the weekends, I couldn't catch up on sleep. I didn't feel rejuvenated after the weekend because I was also using the weekend to work, to like grade and to prep for the new week coming in and making adjustments based on what was happening in the prior week. And so I found that not only was I exhausted, but because I was so exhausted mentally and physically, it was hard for me to connect with my students, right? Now they're exhausted for a whole nother reason, right? But they're also exhausted. And so it was just me, I just need to get through this next class. And by week 9, I had hit a wall and I didn't have time to regroup and reassess. I after week 9, I was like, okay, I got 6 more weeks. We just got to make it to 6 more weeks. And so each week it was just like, okay, we got through that. All right, next week. And I just felt like I was getting even more tired. I felt even more pressure from wanting to be a good professor and realizing that I wasn't being a good professor in my mind. And then thinking and watching my students not connecting. And I'm just like, God. And like you said, this is a chore. It is no longer a love. It is a chore. And so the lack of connection with my students, the lack of enough sleep, I wasn't eating well. I wasn't working out like I normally do to relieve that stress. So because I didn't have enough time to relieve that stress, it was building up. So by week 15, I was done. I was so done. And I mean, I barely got through week 15 and I was just like, listen, turn what you need to turn in. I don't care. I will deal with it. I will manage it, but we are done here. Right. And I hated the way that I ended that semester. I just felt like, wow, that's not what I'm about. And that's not who I want to continue to be. But I really didn't get a chance to dig in to change how I handled burnout until the summer, because we get 4 weeks off and people are like, oh, you get 4 weeks off. All you're doing is just, sitting at home and watching Netflix and popping popcorn. And no, I'm prepping for the spring semester, and I had a new prep for the spring semester. Right. And so, and coming off of a very hard semester, I only gave myself probably like a week, maybe a week and a half to really decompress. But I didn't give myself enough time to reevaluate. Right. It was just like, OK, let's just get our senses back. Right. Let's just get back to a good, normal place. And then it was like, all right, we got 3 more weeks to let's get this started. I need to make sure my weeks are together. So I just never had enough time to catch up. And it went from one semester into the next, and the next semester was another new prep. And this new prep, I was not ready for. I thought I was, and I wasn't. And so when classes hit, and it was a really new class for me, I was again in that cycle of creating week to week and adjusting week to week, and then seeing the disappointment that on my students' faces, like, what are you talking about? Like, this isn't, and then not being able to have the energy to energize them about what I was talking about. So for me, burnout was just exhaustion, was mentally not being able to be creative, not being able to connect with my students, and not seeing myself in that positive way that I used to see myself as someone who can make an impact, someone who is here for the students. I'm here to support you, whatever you need. And I didn't have it in me to do that.
So one of the things that I found super impressive about you is that your passion for teaching. And then you were telling me this story, and I'm thinking there has to be so many other educators out there that
Absolutely.
Are feeling this exact same thing. So let's tell the story.
Yeah.
So how did you overcome it? What helped you with getting that sense of, I am a good educator, because you are. It's
Right.
just you just didn't have the time to do whatever.
Yes.
So how did you overcome that?
I had to stop and really self-evaluate and reflect on the type of professor I wanted to be. I am passionate about teaching, and I want to be good at it, right? And so it was, okay, what's going to make me a better professor? What is going to make me mentally stable? What is going to relieve some of this stress? And what type of support do I need? So what I decided to do was I got a coach who works in higher education, right? So she knows the cycle of higher ed, because I needed to step out of myself, because we are so much in our own heads and our own worst enemy, right? We are so judgmental of ourselves. And that's exactly what burnout was. And she allowed me to incorporate some self-reflection pieces. And I am a consummate communicator. So I don't write. I've always tried to journal, but I don't like the art of writing, the handwriting. But I talk through. That's how I think, is talking. And so she gave me the space to be reflective using my voice and thinking. So the coach was tremendous in me taking a step out of myself and having someone neutral saying, you're not you're not so bad, right? It's okay what you're going through, and you're not the only one, right? Because of course, when we're in that stressful mindset, we think we're the only ones, right? And we generally don't ask for help because we're just trying to survive, right? So the coach was super helpful. Then I also said to myself, what will make me a better professor? Professional development. So I signed up for an AI NYU course at their professional services portion of their university, where they offer this AI and communication course. I really want to know more about AI because, that is like the buzzword.
Right.
Everybody's talking about AI. And I knew I didn't know enough. And I thought that maybe if I learned more about it, it might help me in my classroom. I didn't know how. I just knew I needed to dive in. And in July, I went to that AI and communication. It was in person. It's intensive. It's 2 weeks. But I was so excited. I was excited to be a student again. And what I did was I put myself in my student's shoes. And so I had my laptop, I had my phone, and I knew it was so challenging to get them away from that when I'm in the classroom to pay attention. I said, let me see how difficult is this, right? And so what I asked them to do is I asked them to put it on mute and put it in their book bag, not to keep it on themselves, because even that's distracting. So I did that. And let me tell you, it was amazing being a student. I learned so much. I was able to focus because I was not being distracted by my phone, because we are addicted to these screens. I wanted to see, can I sit and focus? Because it was from 9 in the morning to 3. It's a long day. And it was so reinvigorating. I was around professionals from so many different industries, different countries. It was just reinvigorating. And that gave me the juice to really say, you know what? We're going to be better. Yeah. We can be better. Yeah. And I can utilize AI to be a better professor, right? Certification allowed me to look at my students again in the way of, I don't have kids. They are my kids. I don't take on their parental role, but I'm here to guide you. And that, again, reinvigorated me. It was like, oh yeah, I can do this.
Yeah.
I'm built for this, right? So it just takes some time. You got to take the time to sit down and reflect, on what went wrong, but not berating yourself, but from a learner perspective, and then say, okay, now what can we do to make it better? Right? And then once you can figure out what can I do to make it better, then it's that, who do I want to be? When you ask me, what did I change? I realized that I wanted to teach not just content. I wanted to teach the student, the whole student. I want my students to be better than when they came in. Right. And so if you can be here and develop some self-awareness, some emotional intelligence, but also learn the content that you need to learn, I know they will be better students. I'm having real conversations with them, and I'm being very transparent with them. Every decision that I make, the way I build the syllabus, the method to my madness, why am I asking you to revise this? Is because it's a learning opportunity for you. I'm teaching them also how to do college. Yeah. And that's what I think I forgot. Yeah. Right? Yeah. We assume they know. How do they know? High school is completely different. Right. So it was, again, I'm teaching to the full student. I'm understanding that they need more knowledge about self-confidence, emotional intelligence, how to be a better human being. So it's not just the content, because I'm more than that. And so the time that I took over the summer to reflect, the coach that I got, the supervisor that I have that is open, the choices that I made to be more thoughtful and reflective, really allowed me to reinvigorate the passion for teaching. Yeah.
I do love all of those things that you mentioned. I love that you turned your a negative experience into a positive. And it sounds like on the other side of it, you've come out emerged, refreshed and fulfilled. And
I do feel, that is that word. I'm starting to feel fulfilled again.
Yeah.
I am bringing back that love for teaching, which I thought I didn't know how I was going to get it back.
Yeah.
But I did, and I'm grateful for it.
Yeah, good. Okay, so let's go on a little bit about how do you think that the burnout changed your approach to work? Did it change you with your preparation? Do you think that it just step back and kind of, take it apart and fix it? How did you?
Yeah, I had to take it apart, right? Because I had to see. At first, I had to see what wasn't working for me, and then what wasn't working for the students. And what I realized was the biggest thing was the lecture, and so it was realizing, how can I find different ways for them to learn other than me talking at them? I was like overloading my classes with content and not thinking about the objective, which was to make my students better. I had to, like I said, see what wasn't working, take a step back, and then also, why wasn't it working, right? And asking ourselves the tough questions, right? And I have to say, I got lazy. Right? I did. I got lazy. I started, all I need to do is tell them about this and they'll get it. No. And I should have known better. Right. But again, maybe it wasn't lazy. Maybe that wasn't the word. But again, I was tired. Yeah. Right. And so we think we have to fill the class period with content and covering everything, but we don't. This semester, I didn't touch the syllabus until Friday. I teach Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I didn't touch it till Friday. I wanted to get to know my students first. And so I started with introducing myself. And then we did a game, 2 Truths and a Lie. And we ran through the class and we had a good time, right? And then the second day, I focused on, some of my expectations and what I think the class would be, what the schedule would be, but I really didn't get into that. And I did another activity. On Wednesday, I had them handwrite a elevator pitch.
Okay.
Right? I gave them a short little slide on what to do. They wrote it. And then on Friday, I told them to whip out their laptops and we're going to throw that and we're going to create a prompt in Copilot. I said the prompt is, I want you to say, can you revise my elevator pitch to be more persuasive? And I said, now that you see the suggestions, are you going to use everything? And I was so like happy, like immediately happy. They were like, oh no. And I was like, great, why not? And they're like, well, it doesn't sound like me. Like it sounds good, but it doesn't sound. I'm like, exactly, right? Nice. So then after that, then I went into the syllabus. And then I only covered the parts of the syllabus that were to guide them, right? So I didn't talk about, I talked about diversity in the classroom, what's acceptable and what's not, integrity in the classroom. I did talk about plagiarism, but it was more like a conversation. Yeah. It wasn't me talking down what I won't accept and what we won't do. And right. It was just like, I'm going to tell you, these are things I have in the syllabus that are important because, and just covering it in a way that is more around a conversation than is dictatorship, right? Dictating to them. And so the next week, then I was able to set even more expectations. So I'm building each week. I'm not throwing everything at them in the first class, letting them go early, right? It was really like, let's build a relationship. Right. So it's really just, breaking it down and also just giving myself the time to be able to do that. Right.
That wraps up part 1 of Avoiding Faculty Burnout with Dr. Aisha O'Mally from UB School of Management. Please join us next time for part 2 of our conversation to learn how, with the right approach, burnout can be managed. And as always, be sure to connect with us online at buffalo.edu/CAT, that's CATT, or email us at ubcat@buffalo.edu.